army restores security to Aleppo and people return to their homes. A Mass in Mary's Church for Peace in Syria is led by Patriarch Yohanna Yazji. The Prime Minister asserted that Syria continued its battle against terrorism and remain open and responsive to all initiatives to solve the crisis through dialogue. Good afternoon, this is Danya Nizam with this afternoon's news bulletin. President Bashar al-Assad issued Law Number 35 concerning the general state budget of the fiscal year 2013, estimated at a total sum of 1,383 billion Syrian pounds. Information Minister Omran al-Zabi affirmed in a statement to journalists that there is an unprecedented escalating media campaign against Syria, as there is a lot of untrue news being published. Al-Zabi pointed out that we here in Syria are optimistic that Syria, the homeland and people, will overcome the crisis and will have victory over the foreign aggression against it. The Information Minister stressed the national dialogue is a dialogue between Syrians and those who believe in this dialogue. Those who believe that this is a way to find a serious political operation, and those who refused the dialogue and called for using weapons, and they fear the dialogue's results. As Zabi pointed out, the Syrian Arab army is not a side in this confrontation. The Syrian army represents all the Syrian people, and it is acting accordingly. Terrorism has one shape, as there is no positive terrorism and one negative one, nor acceptable and rejected terrorism. And anyone who commits an act of terrorism is a terrorist regardless of his nationality. Az-Zabi said that the rejection of foreign intervention is the minimum level of nationality and the maximum level is martyrdom. Nationality demands the rejection of all forms of foreign diktats and intervention. The General Command of the Armed Forces issued a statement in which it said that a terrorist group attacked a technological military location in Shaba in the Damascus countryside. They murdered the leader of the force protecting the location. A unit of our armed forces regained the attacked location from the terrorists. The General Command asserted that attacking such military locations exposed the aims of the terrorists and their regional and international supporters, whose priority is to protect Israel. The statement asserted that our armed forces would continue to work side by side with our people to foil the plots of such criminals and their supporters, and to preserve Syria strong, immune and proud. In the Hama countryside, a unit of our armed forces clashed with a terrorist group that tried to attack citizens and the security forces near Az-Zallaqiya in the Mahrada countryside. The terrorists were killed and wounded, including Wa'il Khalid al-Halabiya, one of their leaders, who was critically wounded. 4 of their cars and several motorcycles were also destroyed. The dead terrorists included Muhammad Saleh al-Darwish, Muhammad Zayyat Noor al-Shamiye, Bara al-Umari, Hussein Sulaiman Hamadi, Ahmed Ali al-Hamadi, and Uqdama Saleh al-Baqur. A unit of our armed forces foiled a criminal attempt by terrorists to detonate an explosive device weighing 50 kilograms inside Al-Nahda hospital in Daraya in the Damascus countryside. An official source told the news reporters the unit of the armed forces discovered a field hospital set by terrorists in a private school. It restored stolen medicines and medical equipment. The terrorists destroyed large parts of the school and turned the rest into a hideout for their criminal operations and to warehouses to store stolen equipment. Thanks to our valiant armed forces, the people of the quarter Saif al-Dawla and Aleppo regained security and returned to their homes to continue their normal daily lives.
The Syrian Arab television toured the area of Saif al-Dawla, which the Syrian army purged from terrorists, and thus enabled families to return home.
I
pray to God to grant Syria victory against its enemies. We have suffered a great deal from the terrorists. We have been out of our homes for 5 months.
May God protect the Syrian Arab army in its battle against the mercenary terrorists who stormed and plundered our homes.
Those terrorists who claim to be fighting for freedom stole all our possessions.
I am very optimistic as I return home, thanks to the soldiers of the Syrian Arab army.
A mass was held this morning in Mary's Church in Bab Touma in Damascus for the rest and peace of Syria. The mass was held by the Roman Orthodox Patriarch of Antioch and the Orient, Yohanna Yazaji. He told the worshippers on the occasion of Christmas that they should remember that all Christians continue to live in love with all the sons of their homeland. They should stand united against outside foreigners who have evil intentions. His beatitude greeted all Syrians in their homeland and abroad. He prayed to God to protect our Arab region, particularly Syria and Lebanon. And now it's over to Vani with our economic news. God have mercy to all our martyrs, and God bless you, and God bless our beloved homeland.
Good afternoon. Prime Minister Dr. Wael al-Halqi asserted that the process of construction and continuous work goes ahead to build the new Syria of love, toleration and partnership, in addition to confronting the enemies of our homeland who plot against our potentials and abilities. During the event of planting trees in Al-Sabura in the Damascus countryside, the Prime Minister asserted that the agricultural sector remained a priority in the government's programs of agrarian reform. Easy loans would continue to be offered to our farmers to take care of fruitful trees. He called upon citizens to plant the trees of love and to consolidate the spirit of unity and national interests. He asserted that the tree remained a symbol of our present and future, giving its fruits and shade to all our beloved homeland. Mr. Omar Galawanji, Deputy Prime Minister for Services and Minister of Local Administration, issued a resolution to create a special fund for the first regulatory region in the Governorate of Damascus, in the quarters of Mezze and Kafr Souseh. The fund will be utilized to cover the expenditure of this area and the construction of infrastructure, public utilities and social housing. This fund showed the commitment of the Damascus Governorate to carry out the implementation of this constructive program in the time assigned for it. Electric power supplies returned to the areas that were subjected to terrorist acts of sabotage in the area of Al-Muaddamiyah. The Minister of Electricity, Imad Khamis, headed towards the power station and asserted that targeting the infrastructure was a crime against citizens and their daily life.
Maintenance workshops at the electricity transportation establishment and at the Company of Electricity in Damascus were able to repair all the malfunctions caused to the high voltage lines which feed the electric power station of Al-Fursan in Al-Muaddamiyah in Damascus countryside after being damaged by an armed terrorist group. Minister of Electricity Imad Khamis, who inspected Al-Fursan power station in Al-Muaddamiyah, said that the workshops were able to repair the malfunction and to fully re-put the station into service after being halted by the attack on the electric power. After meeting the workers in the station, Minister Khamis asserted that those acts of sabotage were targeting the economy of the nation and the citizens' livelihood, pointing out that targeting the infrastructure of the country undermines the citizens' means of living. The minister said that the damage caused to the electric sector by the terrorists was estimated by 12 billion Syrian pounds, an amount which is enough to supply all the new villages in the Syrian rural areas by electricity for a period of 3 years, as more than 2,500 electric transformers were substituted and more than 12,000 electric poles were re-erected, while more than 1,000 tons of high voltage lines were used. The attacks of the terrorists were not restricted to destroying the electric grids only, but their crimes targeted the 82 main transformer lines, which represent the basic veins of power in Syria.
The Minister of Work and Social Affairs, Dr. Jassim Mohammed Zakaria, asserted the ministry's keenness to pay pensions on time to those who had to evacuate their homes because of the recent circumstances, especially to those in the governorates of Homs and Deir ez-Zor, in addition to finding a simple and a speedy mechanism for paying the pensions without any delay. The minister pointed out in a meeting with the branch manager of the General Establishment of Social Insurance that the ministry is working to find a legal mechanism that ensures the establishment's funds, especially regarding the public sector's debts. The minister discussed with the establishment's branch managers about the obstacles that face the insurance sector in general, especially the ones related to work, such as health, safety, and work injuries. The agricultural manager, Engineer Abdel Fattah al-Rahal, asserted that the process of picking olives at the Daraa Governorate is on progress and that the estimated production is 65,000 tons of olive and 9,000 tons of olive oil. The manager pointed out that the directorate set up a specialized technical committee whose function is to follow up the work of the olive mills in the governorates. In Daraa Governorate, there are about 40 olive mills. Some of them have one production line and others have 4 power lines, each one reaching about 1,000 tons. So the governorate's mills are able to provide all of the estimated production. On the other hand, the total area planted with olive in Daraa approached 25,000 hectares, while the irrigated area reached about 5,500 hectares. The International Monetary Fund announced that France won't be able to reduce its public deficit to less than 3% of its overall GDP next year. The IMF added that the deficit will reach 3.5%, a fact that the EU had expected. The statement pointed out that the French economic growth is facing downside risks and that Paris should find solutions for competitiveness regarding its trade partners. Oil prices fell at the end of their weekly dealings after discussions aiming at avoiding the U.S. budget crisis stumbled. This increased concern regarding demand in the world's biggest oil consumer. U.S. stocks finished lower this week, affected by another decline of the Apple index and the lack of enthusiasm to purchase shares among investors due to the vagueness of the fiscal cliff negotiations. On the other hand, the European shares rose, guided by bank shares, among expectations about reaching an agreement regarding the U.S. budget that would guarantee avoiding tax increase and would decrease expenses, which could be an indicator for another recession. In Tokyo, the Japanese stocks rose and recorded a surge among hopes of going forwards regarding the U.S. budget issue. And now over to the exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. Conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.